Live from Nipso Production Studios in the heart of America, it's Saturday Night Review, a podcast dedicated to the television show Saturday Night Live. With your hosts, Joseph and Denis. And here's Denis.
Yes, welcome everyone to the 17th episode of Saturday Night Review, and he is Joseph.
And he's Denis.
And this is a YouTube podcast by a couple of guys in the Midwest devoted to one of our favorite shows of all time, Saturday Night Live, and we just absolutely love to talk about that show, don't we, Joseph?
We're hoping that someday we'll be able to make a living from it in the next 15 years or so, yeah.
That would be spantaculous. So, Joseph, we are going to talk about the show, and we want people to talk to us about the show as well. So what can that rare listener expect on this episode of Saturday Night Review coming up for them?
All right, same bat channel, same bat time. We're going to talk about the host. We're going to talk about Cheadle, his accomplishments, his shortcomings, what we thought of him. We're going to talk about Weekend Update. We're going to talk about the top 3 skits, or in some cases, the skits that we probably tolerated the most. And then we don't have a host for next week. So we're just going to fill in that segment with more of your rambling, I'm sure.
I'm sure. And how could they get in touch with us if they'd like to get in touch? I don't if they could want to touch us, which, you know, we can talk about that later, but
right. If they wanted to touch us, that's at the end of the show.
Okay.
If they wanted to get in touch with us, they can email us at nipsoproductions@gmail.com, or they can comment below the video, which Denis, surprise, surprise, somebody actually did that, and you have info for our listeners.
We have a listener, yes.
We have a listener.
A listener. Speaking of commenting on our video, we actually have someone who's doing that. Yay! So thank you, Keystone, for commenting on our videos. Keith has commented on a couple videos. He said, you guys are really talented on the last one, in which I said, that's all Linda and Joseph. And by the way, there's Linda. We have some new special effects on our show, and that's all because of Linda after she felt bad for slugging me last week on the show. So she got us some new special effects for our show. But I gave credit to Linda and Joseph for the talent. At what point he did say also about last episode, I want to bring up the morgue scene featuring Pete Davidson. We talked a lot about that. And he said the morgue scene was kind of a meta commentary on that guy's ability to act, and probably a way for him to suddenly say, come on, I'm more than a crazy drug addict. Let me play a role. And I agree with him. I think it was one of those things that, hey, look at me. I deserve more.
That's what we said, essentially.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. So I thought it was a good little commentary. But thank you very much for commenting on our video, Keith. We appreciate it, and we hope you continue to listen. So we have at least a listener out there. So we're very pleased about that. So thank you, sir.
Working toward 2.
And if someone else is listening, please make a comment, or, you know, share our email and send us a message or whatever. And while we do that, while we let you do that, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk about how last week's Saturday Night Live host Don Cheadle did. And we'll be back right after this.
So, hey, Denis.
Yeah.
So what are we going to have for, like, you know, the Keith Stones of the world?
Oh, right. Okay, I've hold on.
Like a mug, like, is there kind of, like, I don't know, I
got a broken pencil. Are we setting a broken pencil?
How about, okay, is there like Saturday Night Live on the pencil? Can you, like, inscribe it on something?
I can get something and scrape it in there, SNL, I'm sure. Here's a needle. I can just scrape it, SNL on there and send it to him.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, this napkin, it's only got a little bit of mustard on it. I mean, he could still use it.
Well, hold on, though, but it came from you, right, though?
Yeah. And
fans
useful.
love that.
They love that stuff.
Man.
Remember that half-eaten piece of grilled cheese that Timberlake had that went for like $20,000? I mean, that's the same thing, right?
Kind of the same thing. I don't know if it necessarily go for that, you know, stock value, but you know what, man, you got to start somewhere, right?
Man, Keith is so lucky.
Keith, you have no idea, buddy.
You are watching and listening to Saturday Night Review on the Nipso Productions YouTube channel.
Guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more cowbell. Thank you, Bruce.
So wait, you sent him what now?
I'm going to send him this Rush CD.
Well, why would you send him that?
Because it's Rush. Everyone likes Rush. Come on, man.
Well, I don't doubt he likes Rush. I mean, I don't doubt that Rush is not good. I'm just saying, like, why would you send him the CD? Like, at least the pencil had S and L on it. It had something involving the show. That has nothing to do with S and L whatsoever.
Well, but it's Rush. I mean, he would like Rush. It's a Rush CD. I know Keith would like Rush. I mean, I feel like I know Keith, and Keith is going to like Rush.
Well, you have to be careful about how well you think you know Keith.
Oh, come on, man. He's one of us.
Look, I'm just saying, we want this guy to keep listening to us, right? So we can't necessarily make presumptions about what he likes and what he doesn't like, and we also can't send him crappy stuff. Like
crappy stuff. Rush, crappy stuff. Oh, buddy. You better watch it. Linda?
I mean, Linda, right?
Do you hear this, Linda?
Am I right, Linda? Linda, say something. And no?
Yeah, I see. There's a copy of Movie Pictures she has up there right now. See? That's right, Linda. Tom Sawyer, baby. All night. Sorry. Anyway,
back to our podcast that the one person is listening to, or possibly might not be listening to now because you're sending him just random stuff. Back to the show.
Yes, and we are going to take this time to talk about the host of last week's Saturday Night Live, and that was, of course, Don Cheadle.
Don Cheadle, first timer.
Yeah, and I'd like to share some interesting things about Don Cheadle, if I may.
Are they going to be accurate?
Well, yes, because the word Cheadle itself is fun to say. Cheadle. Isn't it fun?
Totally.
Oh, yeah. It rhymes with needle, which I have a cousin who's allergic to needles, so I don't really like that. But it rhymes with beetle. Who's your favorite Beatle?
I'm going to go Paul.
Mine's
Who's your favorite Beatle?
Mick Jagger. And then it also rhymes with fetal. With fetal. And fetal is the position that I often find myself crying to sleep at night when Joseph doesn't answer my texts or my phone calls, but I digress. Anyway, Don Cheadle as a host. We had a lot of high expectations for Don Cheadle on Saturday Night Live. I felt personally, I'm going to go ahead and share mine. I feel like he did a pretty nice job. I liked his monologue. I think he has a quick sense of humor. I think he's got the look mastered where something happens and he looks in the camera or he looks at the people to get a reaction. Yep. I think he's got a great timing for that. There are a couple times I felt he was a little cue card reading, but overall, I thought he did a fine job. I'll be honest, it wasn't the spectacular show I thought it was going to be, but I thought it was still, with him hosting, I just felt there were a couple times I felt he was cue card reading, but for the most part, I thought he did a great job with his comedy timing. And that kind of rescued him from a lot of things. So I thought he did pretty well. What about you?
I'm going to say that my expectations were probably exactly what I expected. They were met in terms of that, and it's not necessarily dissimilar from your own. I thought, again, and you've said this before, I thought he did a pretty great job as a host. And I'm going to distinguish some of the things he did, and I didn't pick up on the cue card reading. I did think he had, pretty decent comedic timing. I do this, and I'm sorry, it's kind of a go-to for me. And sometimes I wonder if it's just the skits they're in. I felt like some of the things he was somewhat static, and I could feel that, as an actor in some of those skits, he wanted to kind of like come out and present more. I just don't know if it was necessarily resonating with me. And I'm going to share something really quickly. I actually did. This is, usually I go back before we do the podcast and I look at some of my favorite ones and I go, okay, was this really as good as I watched it the first time? And then I reassess my evaluation and my ordering of the top 3 skits. This one, I went back and watched it again. And I was like, I do understand what you're talking about, Dennis, because when I watched them again, I go, well, I really did laugh the first time I saw that. But when I'm watching it a second time, I'm not necessarily understanding what I was finding
really
humorous. Yeah.
So you actually watch a show?
I do, yeah.
I just look at the skit names and I think, what's a funny name? So I give it a 1, 2, or 3.
And you know what? That kind of actually, that comes out now. That makes sense.
Now it makes sense. No, I'm kidding. No, I understand, and yeah, I thought he was pretty good though. I'd like to see him host again.
Right.
It was pretty strong. His first time, very exciting.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I thought his monologue was really strong. Talking about fans, I thought that was
Yeah.
really funny.
Yeah. And he's like, here's the thing. I think this is what I was trying to put forth, and maybe you might be saying the same thing. He had good energy.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to say.
He had great energy, and it was there, and like I feel like
Excuse
it
me,
was
I
there.
dropped a dump stick.
Like, he contributed, and I feel like this guy. I don't know. I got the sense, like several other hosts that we've seen this year, because I don't think we've necessarily seen a bad host. We've seen this, like, not great shows, but not bad hosts yet, like we said in the last episode.
Yes.
I just feel that, I think he was a fan. Like, I think he genuinely was a fan of the show.
I think he's wanted to do this for a long time, and it's long overdue, in my opinion. So,
yeah,
I'm
totally.
glad he got the first one out of the way, and I'm sure he'll be back very soon. So, that's what we thought of Don Cheadle, the Beetle with a needle. So, now that that's done, we're going to take a break, and we'll come back, and we're going to talk about what we thought about last Saturday Night Live's Weekend Update segment. We'll be right back after this.
Hey, since we're not recording right now.
No, yeah, we're off.
About the texts. And Linda, I want you to listen to this as well. Because your texts are also inappropriately timed, and I'm just going to be honest with you. Most of the time, they're just vague and confusing, and I don't know at all what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But Dennis, it's not that I don't want to respond. It's just that the timing's never good. I don't know what you're doing up at those hours. I also don't know why you're sharing those things with me at that time. So it's not that I don't respond to your text. I respond to your text. But during sleep hours or during work hours, it's just, I don't know. I don't necessarily think it's appropriate or professional. You know what I mean?
I put my feelings out there. I'm a feeling guy. And when they come up, I act on them. And so I don't want to lose that thought. So I will, I know one time I texted you at 3 a.m, where's a good place to get pizza at 3 a.m.? Listen, I don't know who else to turn to. And, I did not get pizza that night, thanks to your non-response, which I appreciate. I mean, it is 3 a.m. I know you got a baby. I know you got to get up and feed that thing sometime.
Yeah, and
so
I know,
come on.
Man. So here, I know, and we're great friends. Linda, I don't really know where you and I stand, to be honest with you, but that's fine. Dennis, you and I are great friends, but some of these things you're sending me, okay, so this one, for instance, you just sent me a picture of the Monopoly guy with the comment, racist, ?
You're friend zoning me. Are you friend zoning me right now? Is this what's going on?
I'm going to say I'm friend zoning you at certain times of the day, probably. Name me when I'm sleeping or when I'm working, yeah.
Man, I can't believe you sometimes.
Are we breaking up?
I think we just did.
You are watching and listening to Saturday Night Review on the Nipso Productions YouTube channel.
Well, isn't that special?
Just saying.
I know. Okay. No, I know, man. I know. I probably could have stated it a different way. I'm not good with words. Apparently, I'm very insensitive for telling you to be more appropriate. I should have boundaries. I should have known boundaries. And Linda, why are you crying?
She cares. That's why. She cares for me.
I
some people on this podcast.
Oh my God. It's like there's so much estrogen in this booth right now. I can't take it.
Okay. Sorry. We are back. And I will get myself under control here. And we will talk about the weekend update from Saturday Night Live. Last show from last Saturday night, which was hosted by Don Cheadle. We talked about how we thought he was a host, and now Joseph is going to present what he thought of Weekend Update. What did you think of Weekend Update on this show?
Weekend Update, I'm going to give it the same assessment as I gave the show, Dennis, to be honest with you. It wasn't as good as last week. I think last week was the one that we said, I honestly, was it last week? I don't remember. I mean, it was okay. It was okay. I will say this, though. I'm going to sound a little hypocritical. I said it was okay. For me, the shining moment, I am really, really, really liking Beck Bennett's character, Jules, who just see things differently.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
did too. That was well done.
And I know Mikey Day was on there as the, Super Centaurian.
No, I laughed at that. I thought that was good.
Yeah,
too.
it was okay. So this is going to sound really weird. The thing that cracked me up most about Mikey Day's character was the fact that he kept grabbing Colin's hand.
Yeah,
which I felt as a mannerism.
Yeah,
that was very indicative of someone who's very old, and I actually did kind of like that little nuance.
That was excellent.
But I loved Beck on there. Mike and Colin, they were okay. But I felt like this is one of those things where, sometimes the characters stand out. Sometimes the characters and they stand out. This time I felt it was more the characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do too. And you also had Moffat and McKinnon as Schumer and Pelosi, which I thought was really good.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
We're not gloating. I think it's because of two things, and I think it was brought out in the update. Che just flat out saying, "I'm so tired of making fun of Trump," and it's just the same thing every week. And I think he's getting. I think he probably said that, and everyone laughed, and he's like, "I need to just say that on the show." I'm just tired.
You think he's feeling the burn?
I think so, and
he seemed like it.
It's too easy, and it's become a joke that. Well, okay, we're not going to politics, but making fun of Trump has been like a weekly thing, and it's been really easy pickings for these guys. And it's almost like, give us an effort here, make us do something. But I get where he's coming from there. Personally, I don't want to get too much politics. I thought he absolutely nailed the wall argument. And if you saw what he said, I'll leave it at that. Personally, I thought he nailed that. And I think there's a combination of disgust, anger, and boredom with the whole Trump thing, I think, with both of them. And there's only so many times you can say something Trump said and look in the camera and everyone laughs.
Right.
Where you just go, you know what? They want something different. I think basically they're like, can we just talk about something different? But it's always about Trump and they can't get away from him. So I think that to me is part of that problem. I thought Update went really well. I mean, I enjoyed them talking. I enjoyed Che. I thought Che's maybe his best show of the year. Not only talking about being tired of Trump, he made several great jokes. A couple weren't that great, and they moaned. That made him even funnier. And like I said, I thought he nailed the wall argument very well, but that was not so much funny as him just making sense. Schumer and Pelosi were fantastic. Moffat and McKinnon were wonderful. Jules, was very good, and I did enjoy Mikey Day as Mort Fellner, everyone died of natural causes, the old people, which I thought was very funny. Even when we knew it was coming, it still was very, very funny. So I thought this was a pretty strong update overall, really. So what you thought?
I mean, strong might not be my word.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it, like I said, I'm going to go with it was good. It wasn't bad. Nothing will ever top, what we had a couple weeks ago.
No.
Nothing will ever top for me the segment where they wrote each other's headlines.
That's absolutely, without question, the best.
And here's the thing, I know that can't be duplicated. I know that can't be replicated every single time. And these boys, and I totally get it. And I'm glad you mentioned something about, making fun of Trump, because I mean, at this point, like, I really do get it. Like, they have to diversify, and at the same time, it's like, okay, what else can we say about this guy?
I think they want to. I think it's more of a case of they want to talk about other things, but he keeps doing stuff you got to talk about. I mean, it keeps coming at him. Things keep happening during the week in politics that are just funny in themselves. How can you be Saturday Night Live Weekend Update and not at least touch on that? And I think that's it. I think they're like, well, here's another week. We got to spend our first 10 minutes talking about Trump because he said this or he did that, or somebody in his cabinet did this or that, or, something in the White House happened here or there. And it's daily. And so by the time Saturday rolls around, they got 4 or 5 stories already that are just funny in themselves if they just told them. And they're like, I feel like I would feel personally if I was on Weekend Update, which will never happen, but
no, never.
I would want to be challenged a little bit. We've done the Trump thing. Now let's talk about the Academy Awards coming up. Let's talk about other news, and they try, but I just think you know, the president of the United States is the most visible person in the country.
Yep.
And he's constantly doing things that you can make fun of. So how can
Yep.
you not?
Well, and here's the thing though, and this is the question, okay? Because, you know, politics has always been on SNL's radar. They're satirical, that's their job.
Yes.
And I'm trying to think, you know, in terms of the Obama administration, the Bush administration, and I'm not going to get too political here, but I'm trying to think if, you know, some of these things they're saying about our current administration, it is, from myself included, sometimes, depending on the joke, it's getting a lot of laughs, more so than like when they just did the standard, you know, when they do their standard little stories, you know, and they've
it
always,
is.
I mean, it is kind of, because like with Obama, they didn't have that. I mean, they didn't have that ammunition, I guess, and they just relied on characters and those little stories. And now it's more topical, and I do find myself, I hear what you're saying, I do find myself laughing a little bit more at the topical stuff now, because it is so, again, it's kind of just inane what's happening, you know, but
it is.
Again, yeah.
It writes itself even more so than ever before. And I think that's part of, probably as a comedian, I would think you would want a little bit of a challenge, you know, throw me a bone, but don't throw me the whole damn dog. You know what I mean? And they get the whole damn dog every week. And I imagine they're like, well, let's just write this word for word and it's going to get a laugh just like that. And they probably look at each other like, can you believe this is happening? And all we have to do is say it and everyone will laugh. And so it's become very easy politically right now. It's just become very easy for them. So I think they would like a challenge. So, but still, I thought it was a very strong show. Weekend Update. You had the guests were really strong. Maybe the strongest group of guests they've had in a while overall, top to bottom. I thought every guest they had was good. So I enjoyed the new characters. So hopefully we'll see them again.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Hey, let's take a break and talk about the rest of the show. That would be our top 3 skits from this Saturday Night Live. What do you think?
I'm going to do it with you, yes.
He asked me!
You are watching and listening to Saturday Night Review on the Nipso Productions YouTube channel.
You're gonna end up eating a steady diet of government cheese and living in a van down by the river.
No, I'm saying, man, like, I wasn't asking you a question. I don't want you to think more than what it is. Because I feel like now, ever since the show started, our personal boundaries have just awkwardly morphed into something. I've actually think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I know it's a very delicate situation, and I'm dealing with a person with delicate feelings.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine, Joseph. I'm fine. Believe me.
Well, yeah, I know you, but you don't sound fine.
No, don't flatter I'm okay. Don't flatter yourself. I'm fine.
No,
okay.
and Linda, why are you crying again?
Linda, honey, don't worry.
It's just weird. It's off-putting, Linda.
I know, Linda, but just don't worry about it right now. I'll fill you in later.
All right.
Whatever, Joseph. Just
okay. Back to the
do your
business at
thing.
hand.
Yeah.
Back
do
to
your
the
thing.
business at hand. So I'm going to take us into our top 3 skits of the night. And so before we get started, Dennis, and before I ask you your top 3, and we start discussing these top 3, and we start breaking hearts, each other's, namely, I want to give a little commentary on this show and my personal selection for the skits that I chose. I'll say the skits that I chose this round, while they weren't, again, like, while I didn't necessarily, like, I wasn't laughing, you know, uproariously, I did find some of the writing and some of the things they did kind of clever, if that makes sense. And I think that's something that you and I I don't think we've broached upon, because I feel like that's part of my problem when I'm looking at these skits, is I'm going, well, you know what? I didn't really, like, laugh at it, but I respect the writing in it.
Yeah, some
like,
of that.
It's just good writing. And I feel like for our viewers out there, for our listeners out there, I feel that's something, like, I would definitely want them to comment on, is the fact that, like, no, like, Celise, I get it. Like, you're actually, like, you don't necessarily laugh, but you do, like, that's a good skit.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And it didn't go too long. And they're not going too long, which is something we'll talk about, I'm sure.
Exactly. So it had the formula, and I don't know. I mean, I know they're going to make us laugh. I know that's what they're going for. But I also wonder if there's, like, some underlying layer where it says like, hey, even if you don't laugh, this is just good writing.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I agree.
So that being said, I'm going to give you my top 3 skits.
Please.
Coming in, and again, like I said, coming in at number 3, this was a skit that I felt like I didn't necessarily laugh. I thought it was kind of sordid and a little bit morbid, but I like the place that it was coming from. Roach X. I like this particularly because it was, SNL's done commercials. You know that. We've featured commercials on the show. However, this one, it just got kind of morbid, and they took it into another like dark, twisted lane. And I also like the fact that a host like Don Cheadle, this is where you could definitely see he was using his acting chops.
Absolutely.
And I love the whole thing of the concept of the roaches moving in,
Oh
and
my
all
God.
of a sudden they're taking over the family, and there's the alcoholic father who
How dark.
wants to claim his family back, and then the son ends up killing, and like what my favorite part, the son ends up killing Don Cheadle, and the Don Cheadle has this like villainous like, you did the right thing,
The right thing, kid. Yeah.
You did the right thing.
That escalated quickly. There's no question. Yeah.
So I chose Roach X. The second one that I went with, again, I didn't find myself like laughing, but I was like, I really like the way they did that. I like the way they paced it. And they've done this before, but I haven't seen it in a while. Bar Fight. And the reason I liked Bar Fight was because, number one, it was kind of a ridiculous premise. You get 2 guys fighting in a bar, and, you're essentially saying, hey, play my song so I can kick this guy's ass. And the song ends up being something very kind of like, what? Cutesy. And they start dancing to it. And I also love the fact that the dedication to this skit, the choreography number, that took some preparation, that took some planning. And that's where, again, I say like, okay, I didn't laugh, but you know what? I respect the creativity and the dedication in that skit. So I chose Bar Fight as my number 2.
Can I share something about it real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mika did tweet out. Mika's the one who wrote Lollipop. And Mika actually tweeted out, thank you, Saturday Night Live and Don Cheadle. You made my day. I cried laughing watching this. What a great total surprise. So Mika herself, who I guess performed this Lollipop song that they did, was just as excited as everyone else. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
So giving them a little recognition.
Yes.
And my last one, but my first one, this one, I think it kind of needs a little bit of an explanation. Again, a format they've done before, but there was a couple little takes, different things that I liked about it. And I chose Extreme Baking Championship. Here's why I chose it as my first one. I like for the fact that I thought Cheadle did a great job.
Yes.
As the very horrible cake decorator, along with Leslie Jones.
Yes.
But the thing I like is that I like these skits where, you don't just have the host doing the funny thing, or you have the host supporting someone else who's just doing the funny thing. Like, this seemed like an equal balance. And I'm going to reference something with a skit that we saw when, help me out, the Scottish guy who's glass.
What was it?
Find it before it becomes awkward.
Oh my gosh.
So here,
Charmin.
Do what?
The Charmin skit?
No, well, actually, that's the exact skit that I was referencing.
Was it really?
Yeah, and that's. I think it's funny because, again, it's like you've got 4 people in that skit who are actually really being very funny.
Yeah, Charmin. Kept calling it Charmin.
Charmin.
Yeah, the Charmin skit.
And again, like I remember laughing specifically, and I don't necessarily know this factored into it being my number 1, but the name Sean on his cake. Why did you write Sean?
For no reason.
For no reason.
For no reason. And that's like the best part.
So there's my top 3 or my best 3. Or
I'm not gonna lie, that's a pretty damn good top 3. I mean, I'm not.
At the very least, I think my rationale is okay.
Yeah.
So now you're gonna just dismantle it and tear it apart. So go for it.
Well, you may be a little surprised. This is the Lollipop song that they were dancing to. Okay. All right, enough of that. All right. Okay, so my top 3, pay attention, kids. My number 3 was Roach X Plus, the very, very dark commercial that went very dark very quickly and was very funny. We talked a lot about it, but my number 2 was that bar fight. Lollipop Song, Cheadle and Beck.
There you
were
go.
amazing. Mika loved it. I'd never heard that song before, but now, I'm looking for it to be my phone, my ringtone. No, I'm kidding. But just the fact that they used it the way they used it was very funny. It was short, which is my favorite part. They did the thing, and then they got out. Boom. They hit you with it, and they got out, which I thought was great because I didn't want it to go too long, and it didn't. So that was great. And then my number 1, surprise, surprise, the Extreme Baking Championship, just like you. This is the first time I think we've actually matched 1, 2, and 3, but we did. For the same reasons you mentioned. There was the laughter when Olaf was shown. We're going to do this wonderful thing with Olaf, and then you take the top off, and it's like this really disgusting mess of a cake. And to me, that I couldn't stop laughing. And then I said and I thought in my head, either they're all going to be perfect or they're all going to be crap, and one of them's going to be perfect. And that's what happened to be. Yes. And because you thought maybe Olaf was going to win because it was crap. But they just got worse and funnier. And Leslie Jones had mentioned on Twitter, there was a spot there where the camera was on Moffat where he's just kind of standing there and they're not really talking to him. And she said the reason that they had to move the camera is that I was absolutely crying. I was laughing so hard because of Keenan making that voice of that, kill me. She was crying and she could not control herself. So they pushed the camera view onto Moffat so that we couldn't see Leslie. She said I was crying. I couldn't control myself. What a that story. Wonderful, wonderful skit. Just even if Sean had never come alive, even with Sean not coming alive, that was still a great skit. You know how many people named Sean are now going to look for a birthday cake that looks just like that? They are.
Yeah.
They have to. And
yes.
I was crying when I saw the Cookie Monster. By the time Olaf and then the Cookie Monster showed up, I'm crying. And then you have the Perfect Cake by Gardner and which the meme made me laugh. Oh man, the cake. Oh, and the Yoda, the Yoda. How can we forget Yoda holding his member,
holding his
penis? This is my penis. Just the way he said it. Very proud of it.
I think he said like holding his magic penis or something like that.
Something like that. And so even that one, it was just too much. I felt overall that this show in the skits was extremely strong. Some of the things that we've not mentioned, we did not mention the Pound Puppy outfits.
Okay, yes, runners up, right?
The people could wear so their dog wouldn't stare at them while they had sex. We didn't mention that. We didn't mention. I was not a big fan of the Regal Promenade Pavilion. I'm sorry.
I was not.
Did not enjoy that. That's the only one I really didn't enjoy. The Fresh Take show, the freshman show, I thought was good. Cheadle was very strong in that as a teacher.
Yes, totally.
And I thought that was really good. And the rap battle club between 80 and Red that was really, really funny. Their little commercial.
Right.
And I wasn't a real big fan of the cold open. It was fine. We said
the energy there, I feel like it didn't get a whole lot of applause.
It didn't. Again, it was kind of almost hitting too close to home. Where he said those numbers are faker than an emergency. I thought that was the line of the whole thing. Again, easy pickings. But I thought overall, this was top to bottom. My top 3 is the same as yours, but I think we could have done with a lot of other top 3s out of this. I thought they were pretty strong skits, which is 2 weeks in a row. We've had really strong skit shows, which is great.
Yes.
And before we ride out in the sunset, because we don't have a show next week, so we're going to take a couple weeks off as well. I do want to gush to somebody here, and I do like my cast members, and I like all the cast members on the show, and I like all the cast members that have ever been on the show, believe it or not, even Robert Downey Jr. But anyway. I want to gush, if I may, and I'm going to gush over the great Melissa Villasenor. I'm going to call her Melissa because I just, quite frankly, have a hard time pronouncing her last name. And when I tweeted her to ask how to pronounce it, she wouldn't tell me. So I'm going Melissa Villasenor.
Okay.
Melissa, who in this episode's Family Feud looked like, acted like, and absolutely sang like Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
And I do dig myself some Lady Gaga, and I think she's awesome as a person, as a singer. I think Lady Gaga is fantastic.
If you've got 2 ears and a heart, you can't not, right?
Oh my God, yeah. So she's amazing. But and I know that Melissa kind of previewed that the week before on Weekend Update.
Yep.
But her spot on performance of Lady Gaga was just amazing. And Joseph, that's how it happens. You have a strong female comedian on this show.
Mm-hmm.
You have, when I saw Kate McKinnon crush Ellen DeGeneres, and by crush, I mean just did Ellen DeGeneres perfectly.
Yes.
And she said she was so nervous doing Ellen DeGeneres. And seeing Kristen Wiig just absolutely demolish a scene with an amazing Katharine Hepburn. I mean, this is how it happens to me. when these wonderful ladies do just where it's not funny, it's not so much funny, it turns into complete admiration. Like, I just stop laughing and I rewind it and go, oh my God, that's the mannerisms, that's the voice, that's uncanny. The facial expression, that's everything.
Totally.
How? It just becomes something bigger than just complete admiration. So well done, Melissa. Well done. And
well done. We salute you.
And as much as everyone knows how much I love Kate McKinnon, and I do, and I do enjoy everyone on this show, but I just thought particularly Melissa on this last show doing Lady Gaga was just spectacular. So
the scene stealer.
I wanted to gush. I wanted to
gush away. And
yeah.
Then, you know what this brings to mind? And I mean, here you bring up a very valid point. And my thing is this. So, I mean, you can go back to anyone, because at the beginning of this season, you and I had an episode dedicated to best SNL cast members. And then we were talking about the current cast, this season's cast. Mm-hmm. And, we did our opinions on who do we think is going to be an up-and-comer. And I think at that time you had chosen P. Davidson and I had chosen Beck Bennett. Mm-hmm. And you had said, well, Beck's okay for me, but, and I said, well, that's kind of the guy I kind of like watch, because I feel like every season I always watch for somebody similar to what you're doing with Villasenor here. Yes. And I think it's really interesting to point out, if you go back to the 43 years of SNL, how many of these people on this show who are obviously in some respect talented enough to get on, and then you wonder, like Melissa, Leslie, everybody, and depending on how long they've been on the show, you wonder and you look at them and you go, what else do you have? Mm-hmm. Like Melissa, up until this season, she kind of fell under my radar.
Yeah, I can understand that.
And then you start to learn more about her and you start to see her and you start to realize, like, oh no, I mean, like, she's doing some stuff. Like, she's trying to get in there. You can tell.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder. If it's her herself, because we've never been on Saturday Night Live and we've never worked Saturday Night Live. We've read about it. We've read books and whatever.
We never will be.
No, but we know how hard it is, or has been in the past, for people to. It's hard. I mean, every week you got to write skits. You got to write entire skits. Those skits take pages and pages of writing. And you have to get people to write for you, and you have to write with people. And it's got to be hard to get into a groove on doing something like that. I would think it'd be impossible. I mean, they do the impossible every week, in my opinion. They start with a fresh, clean slate, and bang, they just go out and pound out all these skits. And then they take the best ones, and for an hour and a half, they try to make you laugh. It's amazing what they do every single week, which is why we love the show. But for her, maybe it's been, and there is a learning curve for some people. I mean, there's been a learning curve for everybody. I talked about last week, Bill Murray saying, I'm not getting any laughs, I need your help. There's a learning curve for everybody. And maybe she is just hitting that curve where she's now, she's always had the gift of impersonation. She's probably one of the best female impersonators maybe going around today. She's always had the ability to do the voices. And she's always done the characters, and they've been good. But to me, this Lady Gaga, she was, wow. I was blown away, because that cannot be easy to do.
No, totally. And so, I want to add one more thing. And I might be looking at this through a different lens than you and some of our listeners. When you think about the talented cast members in the last, let's say, 10 seasons or so, and you think comparatively between men and women, all right, definitely, we've definitely had some talented men. It's amazing to me, and I have to, if I'm saying this right, it's amazing to me that we've had so many successful women go on to be showrunners, to be
Oh yeah.
Headliners.
Oh yeah.
And I almost want to say, like, the early generations, like the early seasons of SNL, we did have those male dominated things. You had Belushi, you had Aykroyd, so they went on to headline their own things. And now I feel it's kind of, you're seeing the opposite. You are seeing Melissa's, you're seeing the Villasenors kind of like pushing their way through.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Yeah,
saw it with
absolutely.
Wig, Polar, Faye. I mean, so, and that really, really amazes me. And it speaks volumes about these talented women, the talented people. So.
Well, and I think it also kind of parallels the climate of the country itself.
Totally, yeah.
70s and 80s. Belushi was well known saying, no ladies go write a script for me, and
exactly,
totally no way was he going to write, act with the girls and all that. So that was the 70s, and as the country was, and as you go up, women become more and more empowered. But yeah, on this show, without question, the women have become more and more empowered over the last 20, 30 years, especially the last 20 years or 10 years than they ever were. Tina Fey being the head writer, I think the first female head writer, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't know for sure.
I think, no, you're definitely right, yeah.
And, just kind of, led that incredibly powerful group of women. But yeah, I agree with you, and I think this is another case. And I don't want to downplay the guys, because the guys are doing great too.
Yes, absolutely.
But I think you're right. I think this is just becoming a really, really solid group of women, and we could do a show on the most powerful female cast members, which I don't think we did female. We just did overall.
Right, we did.
But we could do one, and it would be very interesting to see what we think are our top 5 female cast members of all time. Because there was a time there, when you had Polar and Faye and Maya Rudolph and Dratch and all them. My goodness, what a group that was!
Yes.
And you throw Wig in there, and oh my gosh, I mean, just spectacular, and almost like a Babe Ruth lineup of female comedians. But yeah, I think you're right. So oh no, I mean, it was a really good show. Do you not agree?
Yeah, no, and I wasn't disappointed at all.
No, nor was I. Oh, but I am disappointed now. Do you hear what I hear?
Don't say it, buddy.
Looks like the band's playing us out, my friend.
Ah, man, that's the worst part of the show.
We have a little time left. Hey, this is always a lot of fun. Was this fun? Did you have fun?
I absolutely love it.
Linda,
Dennis.
fun? Yeah, fun. Thumbs up. Thank you. Linda had thumbs up too. So, we love to talk about this show. We hope that you enjoyed thinking about this last Saturday Night Live show. Also, let us know your thoughts either here on the video or email us. We look forward to another fine episode of Saturday Night Review real soon. The next one will be in March, because they're taking a couple weeks off, and so will we. And I'll try to repair my broken heart. But until then, he's still Joseph.
And he's still Dennis.
And we are out of here. Okay. I'll be okay. I'm all right.
Is this some type of as a result of a medication you're taking?
No, I'm
or
fine,
lack
man.
thereof?
Hey, I'm fine, okay? Don't flatter yourself. I'm fine, okay?
Because, I mean, you do have a family, right?
Yes.
Well, okay. Well, I just thought that they would be, I don't know, I thought they would deserve more of your affection than your co-host
why are you
friend.
Bringing that up right now?
If anything, to take the pressure off me, I'm just saying that, I would think they would get a little bit more affection, or deserve a little bit more of your affection, as opposed to me, who's just, a work associate /
Yeah,
colleague.
I get it. Friend zone. I get it.